boy kills world. Hopefully he doesn't. I don't know. That's a lot of killing. But anyway, let's actually see what this movie's about via IMDb here. A fever dream action film that follows Boy, good name, a deaf person with a vibrant imagination. When his family is murdered, he is trained by a mysterious shaman to repress his childish imagination and become an instrument of death. Yes, become an instrument of death and kill the world. Apparently, no. Okay, maybe not to that extreme, but he is eventually going to kill some people here. All right, so again, a new movie here. There is some twists and turns towards the end of this, so I will try to avoid that and keep this kind of spoiler free. And I'll comment a little bit on that in a minute. I'll save that for a little bit here. So yeah, we'll keep it kind of spoiler free here, and I guess I should note that God sent the information for this, and obviously posted some of the information for this and on Promote Horror and shared it through socials. But this is not really a horror movie. So if you're looking for this to be a horror movie, it's really not. Yeah, there's a lot of blood spilled and deaths in this movie, but not in the typical horror way. This is definitely more of an action movie, maybe fantasy. Not sure if this was based off of something or not. I sometimes get lost in what these movies are based on, maybe a comic or something else or whatever. I'm not sure this, and I think there's another one that's coming out soon that might be. But regardless, this isn't really horror. I would definitely say this is an action film first and foremost. Almost kind of relating to maybe one of those kind of kung fu kind of fighting movies, because some of the scenes is just a lot of fighting, but definitely that first. So yeah, this is a little bit out of a box here and not doing a horror movie here, but because I shared it and because whatever and because I saw this, I'm here doing it. So kind of get that out of the way in case you want to complain that, hey, what are you doing? This is not a horror movie. Yes, I'm aware. So anyway, a little bit about the story here. Yeah, early on, you're going to kind of get this introduction to Boy, and he's obviously a boy at the time you get this introduction. And you kind of see a little bit of the backstory of him and kind of him, and not too much about what happens to his family. You kind of find that on, as more of the movie goes on. But early on, you find out that he's kind of been buried alive, and he kind of gets rescued by this shaman, and the shaman is going to start training him and teaching him, and kind of building him up. And what's very interesting about the movie is the boy, as it says, is deaf. So he doesn't speak even when he's older. It's not one of those things like he overcomes and starts speaking. He doesn't speak the entire movie. So basically, the movie is narrated. Anything that he says is in his head, and obviously the audience gets to hear. So it's a narration. So you get to hear his thoughts and his kind of, what's going on there. And so that's kind of how the movie kind of opens, as you hear him kind of talking about, him being taught by the shaman and kind of his family and what is happening here. And then telling the story of this area. Obviously this is a little bit of a different world, a fantasy world here that's kind of made up, where honestly, I don't think I grasped or got, not that it was super complicated or anything like that. Just maybe I wasn't paying attention close enough to exactly what this little scenario here is of this world that's been created. But I guess, the basis of what I got was that, some family is basically in charge, and obviously there's some weird stuff going on. There's later they plan for some weird event, and they have to capture certain people for this event to do something, maybe kill them. I don't know. It's just, it's not a, we're not in a normal world circumstance here. Basically, there's a family that's kind of ruling, and certain people are sacrificed and killed for certain reasons, and they kind of show their power. And even within that family, as you kind of see them a little bit more as the movie goes on, there's some dynamics there that are weird, and maybe they don't all get along. But they're definitely kind of, I guess, the ruling party here. And yeah, they've apparently murdered the rest of this boy's family. So when the shaman is kind of training him, that's kind of his motivation there. He ultimately wants to get revenge, and ultimately wants to kill the head of the family here. Because that's kind of one of the only things he kind of remembers. He doesn't remember a whole lot. He just knows his family was killed, and kind of wants this revenge. And the shaman kind of fuels that and makes him remember that. And then obviously is teaching him how to fight. So there's just a lot of training goes on. And that's kind of, the opening of the movie is you see him, kind of going through a little bit of training, and then you see him get a little bit older and older. And then, quickly he becomes old enough, and he's an adult now, but still under the training of the shaman. And until one day they kind of, I guess, go more, they're out in the middle of nowhere doing this training, and nobody knows where they are. But at one point they do kind of go into this city or village, whatever you want to call it. And before you know it, some of the family members have come, because again, they're here to collect people for this certain event, weird event that's going to take place. It's even going to be broadcast on TV and whatever. It's hard to explain. I don't want to get into that too much. But yeah, and so they're there, and let's say, things kind of get out of control and things don't go right. And this is kind of the first time boy is kind of in the thick of it. They're seeing the family, and he just can't resist getting involved. And then his point of revenge kind of starts here. And then it kind of just goes downhill from that. And like I said, I don't want to go too much into it because there's some weird stuff. And then we enter, spoiler territory. So I don't want to get too much into that. So what I will say is that, yeah, it is a lot of blood because there's a lot of fighting. Like I said, as he kind of, goes from that point on, there's going to be multiple scenes of him fighting, and it's kind of one of those movies where, the bad people just have soldier after soldier after fighter that's basically just there for him to kill. And it just becomes, fight, kill, blood here, blood there. So, the title is Boy Kills World. So while, he didn't kill the world, he is killing a lot of people, and there's lots of blood. And, I will say that the fight scenes were fun. I enjoyed them. Obviously, I'm a blood and guts person in the horror movies. So, watching, people have blood and broken bones and all this kind of stuff going on, was enjoyable. It was fun, maybe not in the, and there are weapons used, sometimes it is guns, and, the guns maybe not be as exciting because, then you're just, people just getting shot down, whatever. That's just not as exciting. But to see some of the fights and, kind of, breaking the bones and grabbing arms and twisting them and cracking them and punching and seeing the blood fly left and right and all over the place, that was all good stuff. I kind of enjoyed it. It's been, honestly a while since I've seen, some of these fighting movies. I watched them, before, a lot more action movies before, but, most of the time now it's horror. And horror, has, there are some fights sometimes in horror, but, not to like this. This is, whatever. And some of the, well, he's kind of using the fighting techniques. There were other fighters that kind of fought back. Others he just beat the crap out of them real quickly and moved on. He has a real funny one with early on in one of the first big fights he has. With one guy who just won't die. He just seems to can't die, and so every time he thinks he has him down, this guy kind of gets back up, and he kind of is like round one, round two, round three, and I think the movie is kind of self-aware in a little bit because they kind of make mention of Street Fighter. And like I said, while the movie seemed to be in a different place, then they kind of pull this out and kind of show like an arcade and whatever that kind of ties back to being in the real world. So that's why I was kind of unsure what this whole fantasy, non-fantasy world that they've created. But they mentioned Street Fighter, and he kind of plays to that, and the narration kind of plays to that a couple of times in it, and when he's fighting. So, if you know Street Fighter, it's kind of that thing. It's just, two people just going at it. And that's basically, a lot of, he's fighting basically one, mostly, one person at a time. Maybe just one, and then another comes, and then another comes, but it's, it's not like he's fighting two or three usually at one time. It's just one fight and then another, maybe in a sequence. But it is just crazy. And so yeah, as the fighting goes on, he's obviously he can't speak. He's not talking, but the narration's going on. So in a way, it's kind of fun because he has some fun narration also going on as he's fighting or after he finishes his fighting, so on. So the narration in that sequence was also good. So, nonetheless, that this person keeps coming alive, but some of the narration used in that sequence was also fun. So while you're enjoying the fight, you're also getting a few laughs in as well. And speaking of the narration, I thought that was a nice added thing to this movie that maybe made it a little bit different than maybe some of the other, sort of action kind of movies and so forth. That you kind of had that voice, and that voice could say anything, and could be about the fight, could be whatever, could be, didn't have to be so, like conversational, like he was talking to somebody else about this and that. There's even some funny scenes where he's, he doesn't talk, but people are talking to him, and his reaction to it, or his understanding of it, or his non-understanding of it. There's one person, he really can't understand what they're saying. He can't read their lips. So you kind of hear him doing his own translation in his head, trying to figure out what this person has said, and obviously he's not translating it very well. And it's a very, becomes a very funny moment. So while he is there, killing, and there's lots of blood or whatever, the movie does do a good job with the narration of picking good points to kind of sprinkle in some laughs in there, mixed in there in those moments. And I think, it kind of moves the movie along, and you don't have to worry about him having too much conversation. I mean, there are times when people are talking to him, and he's kind of, taking it in, and you do get the narration, but it's just obviously much different than if he was able to speak back to the person. So I liked that. It was something kind of different than what we usually see, and definitely added a ton of humor, besides all the blood and guts, and well, you didn't see too many guts. I'll say that. It was, just a lot of blood going everywhere, and bones being broken, and people kind of twisting in odd ways and so forth. But so yeah, that was fun. And I will say I was a little worried when I went, because when I saw after the movie had come out, I surprisingly saw that, from some of the tweets I saw, it didn't seem like some people liked it and so forth. I don't remember exactly what the complaints were or whatever, but I think overall I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the narration. I laughed enough at it, or thought I was amusing enough. And just, the fighting of it, the blood here and there, whatever. I thought the fights were pretty good. I don't think there was anything like super done that you were like, oh wow, like that was amazing or whatever. Um, but I thought they were still good enough. I don't think they tried to go too overboard. Sometimes they can try to stretch it out and just do some stuff that's really ridiculous. Um, I should say that he also, apart from the narration, he also sees his sister there, a young version of his sister, who he got along with very well. And as the movie kind of goes on, you're going to learn a little bit more about his past and the few memories he does have, and definitely he has his sister there. So he can kind of see his sister, and he really can't distance himself from thinking that she's real. He knows she's not real, but he can't get away from the fact that he thinks she's real. So there are some moments where like he thinks she's gonna be in danger, so he might like go to, jump, kind of tackle her out of the way, but it really wasn't needed because she's not really there. He kind of gets distracted by her and is almost having that mental conversation with her. She's talking to him, and him and his narrated voice is kind of talking back to her. But she's not really there. So sometimes that helps him, sometimes it doesn't. So again, that's kind of also another added thing that I liked. It again, kind of added some humor, kind of took away, and kind of filled some space when all the fighting was not going on. And definitely it becomes an important part to him and, his story. So that was also interesting. So I liked those things, the narration, him having, the vision of her, and definitely the fights. Like I said, there is a twist in this film. I guess if you were really paying attention, you probably would have caught it. I think there's a point where and I guess there's maybe, there's obviously the major twist, and then, I guess maybe one or two others. But I think you're probably going to see it coming, maybe not early on, but, there's going to come a point where it's fairly obvious, and maybe not obvious within, what is going on, and then to some of the characters, but it's going to be obvious with you. And some of the twists maybe not so obvious. Some it is. Maybe you guess it early on. You just want to go for it and make a guess. But I liked it. I don't have any complaints about it. I mean, like I said, some of it may surprise some of it may not surprise at all. So I guess depending on your level of how much you're into it, maybe you like it or not. So I liked where it went. I liked the twist. Maybe not all of it I expected, but maybe some. There are some other interesting characters. I'm not going to go too much into those, let you guys kind of watch it. But he does, befriend a couple of people that kind of help him on the way. And obviously you're going to meet more of the bad people in the movie, the family. And, they have some interesting characters there as well. So, I think the most evil of the characters, you don't get too much of. And I'm not sure why, but you get them in the most important moments, but you don't get much of them early on. So again, why some of the stuff that happens at the end of the movie is kind of weird. I almost feel like you're missing something there, or something else in this universe that they've kind of created. We're just not told or told enough of, or exactly the reason why this. I know they kind of try to explain why they're doing this kind of TV moment weird thing towards the end of the movie, besides setting up a very weird scene for more people to die. I know they kind of go through it, but I don't know. At the end of the day, it just doesn't make much sense, but whatever. So yeah, I guess it's that mix between, kind of having this fantasy world and maybe a more real-like situation. I don't know, but whatever. So overall, I think I'm going to give this one Three Pools of Blood. That is out of 5. I certainly enjoyed the movie enough. I enjoyed the blood. I enjoyed the narration and some of the fun of it. I had thought it was a good. I debated. I was. I saw it there. I'm like, should I watch it? Should I not watch it? It's from now I know that it's more not horror. I saw some people complain about it, and I said, no, screw it. I shared it enough and whatever. Like, let me see what this is about. So I'm glad I watched it. So if you're looking for something that's not horror and more action and oriented and that kind of thing, with still some blood. There is some blood in this movie. Lots of blood in this movie. Lots of people getting if you were in the mood to see some people get their ass whooped, throw this on. This is this kind of maybe fill that void for you, kind of like me. If you haven't seen an action movie in a while, this might be a good one for you. Again, not really horror oriented here. So a little bit, going out of the box here with this one, but still, I enjoyed it and don't mind throwing a random movie out here every once in a while that's kind of on the border here. So yeah, Three Pools of Blood out of 5 for Boy Kills World here. And horrorsquarereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews, written and video, obviously mostly video reviews of late. For a while now, so like, subscribe, do everything that everybody wants you to do. If not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for any time you spent here watching reviews, shorts, whatever, just hanging out, or you just want to talk shit about me, whatever it is, it's okay. Twitter, Facebook information down below. Feel free to like me there, follow me there, unfollow me, unlike me there, whatever. But if you want me to review something, you want to talk horror, you can do that there. And definitely in the comment section, if you watch this movie, did you enjoy it? Did you not? What did you think? Feel free to share that down below as well. Yeah, and I guess with that, I will catch you on the next review, which will hopefully be a horror movie. So I'll catch you later, horror fans.